to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, Terri. Thanks so much for joining me again on A Well-Designed Business.
Hi, Luann. It's great to be here. This is always so much fun to do with you.
Yeah, I love our conversations because you're so darn smart. Can I just say that? You're a hashtag smart lady.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. And so this is a sponsored show for the Interior Design Business Academy. But what I love is if anybody wants to go back to, and I highly encourage them, go back to the catalog of the 3 other episodes that you've been on. So the first one was 548, calculating flat fee and budgets on the fly. This is a must show listen to after this one. The techniques that you described to us on being able to have these conversations about flat fees and budgets on our feet was, mind-blowing for me. I was like, whoa. And what I loved about it, I'm not going to give it away. We're not going to talk about it. You got to go back and listen to it. But was that when you described it, it was like, that was so simple. Like, how come the rest of us didn't think about it, right? So that was that episode. And then 602, we talked about your summit for 2020, which today we're going to talk about the summit for 2021. And 662, we talked about the profitable kitchen remodels. And all 3 of these shows, you just drop the nuggets of, your 2.5 decades of experience in the design industry are completely sprinkled through these episodes with such great takeaways. And so I highly recommend that you all listen to these episodes. And today, Terri is here, and she's going to talk to us not only about the summit in November of 2021, but before we get to the details of that, she's going to talk to us about why we have such a hard time getting paid what we're worth. Okay. Now, I know with all of the designers that you have coached and all of the things that you do through the Interior Design Business Academy, you probably are seeing tons of commonalities, Terri, right? Talk to us a little bit about why, as designers, there is such a, hard turn to getting paid what you're worth.
Oh, yeah, it's such a big subject. Thank you for that great intro. And getting paid what you're worth, it's really what it's all about. We all have a ton of heart and love to do this, but you need to get paid too. So the things that get in the way are things like billing hours and billing hourly and not tracking time and not sending your invoices on time and reducing the bill before it goes out. And I know everybody's done that, and I'll just throw that one out right at first. Me too. It's happened. But, you just got to get past that. But there's the whole piece of just jumping into a job because you have so much heart that you want to get into it and get going on it is what flips you over backwards and makes it not come out right. So what's really happening when you jump in without having a budget, and you could do a little budget on the fly really easily, you're lost and your client's lost. And then you get into the stuff where there's no system where you're telling the client, this is how I work. Okay. So having the budget and a fee related to that budget is a really important piece to start with. And the struggle we have is that when we learn design in school and learn how to do this, budget isn't part of our process. It literally isn't even taught.
Which is
it's
just sacrilegious, I have to
say. Yeah, I know.
It's like having I don't know, a college education for baseball and not ever putting a bat in your hand. It's like, well, how do we expect to do this, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like the process it doesn't even mention it. And so it's no wonder we get out of school and fall off the cliff like lemmings. It's just, what nobody ever taught you. How would you know that.
Right, right. You
Don't
don't
you
know
know
what you
that?
don't know. And usually you learn
Exactly.
it the hard way, right? Like you get
Yeah,
your butt
yeah.
kicked on a job and then you're like, wait, I have to
Wait,
change this, right?
yeah. And then you try it again. I think the hard part about it is that as designers, we don't get that many chances.
Mm,
If you have 2 or 3 good inquiries in a month, you're doing good. I mean,
mm,
that's a good practice,
mm-hmm,
right? And
mm-hmm.
you keep try and change things, it's risky because you don't wanna lose anything. So it's really important to start looking at what goes a little bit beyond having a budget and a fee. Like a fee is a group of money. Now you know you're gonna get paid that much, but without a system behind it that says to the client, "This is how we're gonna get this done," right? This is what we'll do first. Here's the parameters on it. Then we're going to have a meeting here, and this is what we're going to do. And this is your responsibility to make these decisions at that meeting. And then we're going to have this meeting, and then we're done. Then we're going to purchase.
Right.
Now, when it gets laid out that way in a really clear, this is how I work way, it's much easier to stay in control of the job. And it's much easier to sell the job because obviously the client's going to go, oh, I guess you've done this before. Great.
Right.
We'll
Well,
do it forward.
anytime we go to a professional, we have this expectation that they are the one that is going to say just what you said. This is how I work. We word it 16 different ways, whether we're going to a physician, we're going to a restaurant, even if you think about the simple act of buying a car. You don't tell the car salesman, well, first we'll do this and then I'll do the test drive and then you'll do this. It's like they lead you through it. I think that's what you're trying to say is that
Exactly.
right. Okay. So as a professional, take the lead, but in order to take the lead, you have to establish what your process is. This is your big
Exactly.
message, right?
Exactly. Really clearly what that process
Mm,
is. And that's what the back end of design fees are. It's not just figuring out how much money in the front, but actually being able to run the job efficiently so that you move in and out of it. I mean, there's no reason why a living room furniture job shouldn't take more than 6 weeks to design. Okay?
right,
And 4
right,
meetings is enough. I got
right,
a $50,000-$60,000 budget, that'll do it.
right,
Okay.
right.
Now you can get more complex, bigger budgets, more detail, that sort of thing, and obviously bigger jobs than that. But the point is that it isn't something that you just feed pieces at a time going in, that you have a structured plan for doing it, just like you have a structured plan for that first appointment, that first paid appointment, by the way. Don't go out free.
Mm,
Okay, you can't be free and then charge a bunch for something.
mm.
You need to let people step in, a tiptoe at a time. So in the process, the funnel for bringing them in, and then the funnel for running the job is how you successfully come out and get paid what you're worth, and get paid very, very well,
Hmm.
very well.
And so what I'm hearing between the lines is in the designers that you have worked with, take that example of a $50,000 or $60,000 furniture project for a single room, and you're
Right.
saying 4 visits, yada yada, this is design, this is done, and of course then we're talking about the purchase ordering process and the
Mhm.
execution and the install separately. But to get
Totally.
from hi, I'm interested in having my living room designed to here is the room. I've collected my design fees. We've budgeted the project. Here's all the deliverables on paper,
Mhm.
right? So
Right.
what you're saying is that in your experience, you find when a designer doesn't have a finite process for that 4 to 6 week period, that they're doing more visits than necessary, they're having more conversations than necessary, and they're whittling away at whatever the design fee was. So one designer maybe charges, I don't have the slightest clue, say $10,000 for that design fee,
Mhm.
and another one charges $10,000, but the one that does it in 4 visits and 5 phone calls is
Is
making a heck of a
profitable.
lot more money than the one that does it in 25 visits because they're just doing it willy-nilly.
You got it. You
Okay.
got it.
Okay.
So the willy-nilly is the problem, and and realistically, it seems counterintuitive because we are entrepreneurs because we don't like following rules,
Right.
right?
Oh yeah, I
Right?
believe that.
That's it.
I'm hand up.
Absolutely. But then, yeah, you and I both struggle have that battle, right?
Exactly.
But if you have no systems and you don't follow the rules, you end up working way more hours and you lose your freedom.
Right.
So
Right. The
yeah,
exact thing that you did this because of, right? Well, for
exactly.
designers,
That
it's usually
exact
the
thing you were
second
trying to
thing.
get rid of.
The
Yeah.
passion is the first, and the second is the freedom.
Yeah, yeah. So, so it's really counterintuitive, but what happens when you start implementing a system, 1, 2, 3, 4, this is how we do it, it starts clearing up your time. You know what you're supposed to do. You can take the time that you've allotted, put it in your calendar, so you know when you're busy and when you're not. You know if you can take on another job. You
Mm,
know if you can go on vacation. You know what's happening, and you
mm.
know when the money's coming in. I mean,
It's so funny because I think that so many of us do this in other areas of our life, from simple things to complex things, where we understand we would never just go out and approach something without a plan, a process, and a system to do it. I could think about, like, I only cook once a year now, and it's for Christmas Eve dinner, and it's the 7 fishes, the whole 9 yards, right? But it's like, as much of a rule breaker and non-system follower I am like 2 weeks before, like, where am I ordering the fish from, and did I order the fish, and I have the notes, and I have the this, and that day, when do the mushrooms have to go in, when do I have to start with the this, and blah, blah, blah. Like, I would never do that dinner without the, like, even if it's just notes, right? Like, because my 18 people in my family are going to come over, that's one night they're looking forward to it, and if it's not good, they're all going to be like, okay, and I'm like, well, have more wine. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, or you're
It'll
still
taste
in the
better if you
in the
drink
meat
more.
and you don't eat the potatoes. Yeah, it's that exactly. The analogy I like to use is getting your kids off to school in the morning. I mean,
Right.
when that whole piece about getting everybody up and getting breakfast and getting lunches made and everybody's dressed and I'm dressed and we're out the door and she's at school on time and I'm at work in time couldn't possibly work without a system.
That's right. But yet we'll sign on the line with the potential client or the client for 50, 60, 100, $250,000 and not have it as regimented as getting our kids out to school.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. And it is
So,
kind of that. And I think, you know what, Terry, you tell me what you learn. I feel like sometimes when I'm talking with a designer, they have a little intimidation or a little anxiety over everything to a T is insane and it's hard and I could never come up with that process. But I think if we think about that process of getting our kids out to school in the morning,
mhm,
we're not doing 8:01 brush teeth, 8:03, do this. We know all the steps, and sometimes they can tiny bit move, but they move too much, it's chaos. But
right.
it's you just know by 6:30 everybody has to have that. By 7:30 everybody has to have that. By 9 o'clock we all have to walk out the door. And it's the same what you're saying. By week 1 this should happen. By week 2 this should happen. By week 3 this should happen. Am I on the
Exactly.
right track?
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Right. If you
And
do it
when you
Tuesday
can,
or Wednesday, that's a little flexibility there, right?
yeah, exactly. You may not hit it exactly, but you're going to be darn close.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can do that for your client, it elicits a great confidence.
Right.
Oh, she knows what she's doing. We're
Right.
just going to follow along. We got to make some decisions, and that's it.
Right. I
Right.
love that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Because it makes the job so easy, right? You don't get in those places where I had somebody on my Q&A call they had a client who was literally taking over the job. She was
Mm.
booking appointments to go to furniture stores, retail ones. I was like, what
The
happened?
client was booking the appointments and
The
advising the
client was.
designer of
Yeah.
the days and the times.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you
It's
want to
like,
talk
and then
about
she
you
was going
lost
along with it,
control.
which was even worse.
Yeah.
But these things happen because we don't explain our system clearly in the beginning and say what the run rules are.
Mm.
What I've figured out and what all our designers have figured out is people will about 85, 90% of the time follow the rules.
Yes. We
Yeah.
want to. That's why
Yeah.
we hired you, by the way.
Yes.
If we
Yeah.
wanted to do it like a big, hodgepodge of not sure what to do when and how when should hardware be ordered so it's in when the cabinets come in, we would have done it ourselves.
Of
We want
course.
somebody to run it for us.
Exactly. Exactly. Take care of all this stuff and it's done.
Yeah. And
So,
it's
and it's not a difficult sequence either.
right.
It's really not. It's a matter of getting out of that mindset of, oh, I don't know what she wants or I don't know what she's going to do, and okay, this is what we're going to do. It's like, this is the way we work.
Right, right.
Right? We're going to meeting one, we're going to see all of your ideas and your photos and your lookbooks and everything you've collected and any websites that you want to see. And we can explain that this is the programming section. This is the part when you send me all these ideas. After programming, I can't use those anymore.
Too
And
late.
if you want, yeah, too late. And if you want me to look at those and implement those, we're going to have to start over in our letter of agreement because you're
Mm,
changing the base of what we started from.
mm-hmm.
Now, when people understand that in the beginning, you don't have the people trying to shop with you in the middle of it because we've got lots of that going on.
Well, and so this is a great point. In other words, if you tell a client before they're in agreement with you that in your word programming phase, you can share with me whatever that designer is allowed wanting to share. If you want clippings, you want Pinterest, whatever. Once
Whatever.
we do the design and then that's it. There's no more sharing. There's no more what about this. And if you do, we're going to take because what I love here is you're going to say you're taking me backwards to step programming. So we're going to have to design a new contract because we're through programming. And if you want to program again, there's a fee for it, right? This
Hmm.
is what you're saying. Okay. And
Yeah,
the
we're
thing
starting
is,
over.
right. And so what I love about this is if you tell it to me ahead of time, I'm okay. If you tell it to me when we're through programming and now I want to do it, I'm like, what's your problem? You're not cooperative. I just found something else I liked. So it's a
Hmm.
very different spin in the consumer's head, right?
It is. It is entirely.
Mm-hmm.
Entirely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's the same thing that happens when you talk about purchasing in that first meeting and say, our purchasing is at retail. And
Mm.
we talk about what retail is and they understand it. Then when you get to purchasing, we're not going to question what your purchasing fee is. I really don't want to do that anymore because people pick on it. They're far better off at retail. When you say that in the beginning and then it comes in on budget because you already did the budget on the fly, right? And you bring it in on budget, it's like this is what we agreed to spend. Here it is. It's beautiful. Let's do it.
Right. Right, right,
Right?
right. This is our agreement. It is so many times we've said it over the last 5.5 years. If it's agreed upon ahead of time, then this is going to save you 90% of your problems because
Oh,
yeah, you can just say,
yeah.
look, we agreed on this. If and that's the thing. If somebody's trying to say, hey, here's 16 more pictures from Pinterest my sister-in-law sent me, and right, right, right. And you say, okay, so did you want to open up the programming phase again? Should I send you a new invoice? It's sort of like, oh, no. Or, by the way, it could be yes. That's the other thing, right?
That's the other
It
side.
could
Yeah.
be yes. And then charge them, and who cares, right?
And yeah, and you get paid twice. That's
Right,
fine too, you
right,
know? But it's about using your voice.
right,
It's
right,
about having a set of rules to start with, and when they're in writing, that's the part, getting them into the letter of agreement. This is how we do it, and this is how we work. Then when it comes up, it's really easy to use your voice and say, well, I've done everything in my contract, but I'll happy to go do some more selections for you for your sofa fabric.
right.
Um, but I need to charge you a couple hours, $600, okay?
Right, right.
You know,
Because they can say, never mind.
yeah,
Or they can say, yes, please. And that's another thing that I think as business owners, not just interior designers, all business owners make the mistake of assuming that the client who you have had the upfront agreement and you have discussed the contract and they have had that time to understand how the game plan is going to be. When they come and ask for something, they might not say, hi, can I start by telling you I want an invoice for this? And then here's the 16 pictures from Pinterest, right? When they come, if they understand it, they might totally be expecting you to say, great, I'll send you an invoice for that. And then the answer is, great, I knew that because I'm an intelligent person and I made that agreement with you. And it's important to me because I just got this new idea and I'm going to have this kitchen for the next 20 years. And if it's another $1,000 in your hours to make sure it's right, I'm on board with that.
great. Yeah,
Right? Right?
perfect.
I
And
mean,
then
some people
everybody's
are grown
happy.
ups. Right.
Yes, everybody's happy, and then we're profitable.
Exactly.
It's the assumption that if somebody asks for more, that somehow we haven't done enough and we're supposed to do it for free.
Right. Right.
And that is erroneous. It's
Right.
just, yeah. It's handling your business kind of like it was your family.
Right.
right?
right.
But though you do that for your family, but you don't do that for your business. It's
Mm-hmm.
not the same.
Mm-hmm.
Not the same at all.
And the other thing too is, when I love your analogy about getting the kids and the family out to school in the morning and work, because you know what happens. Any one of us that are parents, and you've ever, had a day where you didn't get up on time, or you didn't, it maybe your job as the mom or the dad is you do put the book bags together the night before. Your kids maybe aren't old enough to do it yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know the times when you didn't do it, when you didn't get up early enough, or you didn't have your end of the sequence of events prepared. What happens on that day? Not only are you stressed, but your kids are lunatics, right?
Oh,
That's the day
pure
they're
chaos.
crying and they won't put their sneakers on, or you go in the room and you put a dress on them, you come out and they're in their underwear again. You're like, holy cannoli here. Can you just keep your clothes on? We're
Yeah,
late, right?
we're leaving now.
That's it, right? And so, and
Yeah.
that is the same, manifestation of when a client is overreacting and being negative and all those things, because maybe they're not able to verbalize it because they've never done a design process before, but the process isn't enjoyable. It doesn't feel clear. It doesn't feel like there's an order to it. So then they're reacting no differently than a child who's reacting to the chaos of the morning, which, by the way, we created because we got up late and we didn't do our part of it, right?
Perfect analogy.
Right,
Perfect.
right,
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
dead on.
yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
The
Yeah, so it's the self-creating chaos.
Right. And the client doesn't understand why they're not happy. They're just miserable. And, when you break it down, it's because, maybe we added something and we didn't tell them about it, or we told them, oh, they asked for something and it wasn't included and they didn't know. And so
Hmm.
it's that same sort of the uncertainty and not having the plan is really what you're saying. And it's
Yeah,
a great, great
yeah,
analogy that getting the kids to
yeah,
the school. Yeah. I mean, my God.
yeah. Can you
I
imagine?
can remember, and it's 100 years ago, and I literally remember the feeling on the days that I did everything I was supposed to do, and the days that I didn't. I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
see, this is all on you, lady. You're the grown up in the space here, you
yeah.
know."
You gotta
and
own
right,
it. You gotta
right, and
take
so
'em up
for us as
too.
business owners, it's like this is all on us. We are the one who is supposed to be running this, project, right?
Exactly.
Same thing. I
Exactly.
want to backtrack 1 second because I think it's so important, and then we're going to continue on with some more ideas that you have about this. But, billing hourly, not tracking your time, not sending invoices on time, literally reducing the bill, because whether you charge a flat fee or you charge it hourly, your flat fee is still based on the hours that it takes you to do it, based on your data and your experience in it. And I know for a fact that if we are not tracking our time in real time, if we say, oh, on Friday, I'm going to sit and give some thought to what did I do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it is such a figment of our imagination. It
Oh,
totally is. You,
totally.
you think you spend, and what happens is no matter what it adds up to, when you go to bill to somebody else, your brain goes, "Huh, it seems like a lot." But
Hmm.
if you're actually tracking it in real time, whatever it adds up to, you'll send that invoice differently because with certainty these are the hours I worked. And if somebody wants to challenge you, you're like, no, see, I track my time in 15-minute increments.
Hmm.
I know this is what I did. Do you
True.
find that's the difference in the designers that reduce their bill and the designers that stand there and send it out with confidence?
You know, the only way I see it working is when somebody else sends out the bill. I have yet
Oh.
to meet anyone who doesn't mess with their own time.
Okay, so even if
If
you know it to be true, as the principal, if you're sending the bill, you'll tend to still knock hours off.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah.
mm,
It's really yeah, yeah, because you're coming up against your own money values too every time you send
mm,
that bill.
mm.
Your own self-worth, your own, money stories about what you're worth and what's this worth and what the dollar is worth to us versus to our very wealthy clients. That's a whole different game,
Right.
whole different thing going on there. So it's I had someone that I worked with who had been a legal assistant. She was on a second career, so she was really good at tracking time. And about 6 months into the program, she said, "You know what? Fees work better."
Oh,
I said,
because she
"Yes."
didn't like to do it. Yeah, she didn't like to
Well,
send those invoices out for time.
No, actually, she was really good at it. She just discovered that when she did it on a fee base, she came out way better.
Oh, she made more money.
Yeah,
Okay.
made more money. Yeah, exactly.
The whole
Yeah,
goal here.
the whole goal. Yeah. So it's not that when you have a fee, you don't ever track time because you really should
Right.
internally. I mean, you don't have to show it to anybody. You don't have, but you need to look at it. I mean, in my studio, we would review about every 2 months. We would review the contracts we'd finished and the time, and see how close we were. I mean, I was fee based for last 20 years, so it's
Mm.
a long time. And but we would review that every time, say what happened. This one came out really good. This one came out really bad. What happened in the middle?
Well, it's
So
the
that
only way you can perfect your process so that you can be profitable. If you're not reviewing, I say all the time, right? We have to do the autopsy after every project and say what went right, what went well, what really, whoa, let's please
yeah,
never do this again.
exactly.
Right?
Yeah, both in time and in money.
Right.
I run into so many designers who have no idea where their numbers are. No
Mm.
idea if they're making any money, they're not making any money. They don't know what the job profitability is,
Mm.
what they charge versus what went out in bills and what they ended up with.
Mm.
They often even take that little bit of profit that they create and say, "Oh, well, that's I'm profitable," but they didn't allow for their time in the job. One has to look at a business as a business, and in order to provide that service, then the person providing it has to be paid like an employee.
Right. Because
So
what you're saying is they're not including the hours that they've spent on it. We're not talking about billable hours now. The hours to run the business is the cost to be open. It's their operations number. And that has to be included in your net cost of doing business number. Otherwise, we're really faking ourselves about our profitability, correct?
what's true? That's true. That's true. Just as a benchmark, what I found was that if you could bill 20 hours a week in good billable time for design, you're doing pretty good. And
Mm,
if you could get it up to 30, you're really kicking butt. That's
right.
really
So
right. So
this is an ideal for anyone listening that if hopefully they have data to review and they look back and they're not averaging, all across say a 6 month period approaching that 20-hour a week mark, something's wrong. They've got
right,
to make some sort of adjustment in there in order
exactly.
to increase their profitability.
Exactly, and it's not increasing your hourly rate
Right.
because that's what scares people to death. It's about charging for your time for
Right.
what you're actually doing.
Right. Right. Right.
And one of the cool things about fees is when you base them on base hours, like we were talking about, or a budget, what's appropriate for the amount of money that's being spent, then you have a number that you could divide by your internal hourly rate and figure out how many hours you need to get that job done by.
Mm,
And then you can block that into your 4 meetings, right? And you've
right.
got the spaces in between where you've got to do the research and get those pieces done, or somebody has to do the research, not necessarily you,
Mm-hmm.
has to get those pieces done. You can actually control the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't just run amok, just run out into nowhere. People lose jobs so often by just charging a little bit up front because they're afraid to say a big number. They're afraid to say, I'm worth $12,000
Which is
to do this
crazy
job.
because ultimately, if you honestly know that you're going to end up invoicing for that amount, just own it,
Mhm.
right? Just own it. Who are
Right.
we
Own it.
kidding? The
Own it.
person is
Yeah.
eventually
It's
going to
like,
pay it.
yeah. And there's this little internal game saying, well, maybe I'll sneak it in on them. I'll just, they won't notice what
They'll
they're
lose
spending.
track of the other
It's like,
8,000.
yeah, excuse me. Yeah. And the $100,000 they're spending, these people are wealthy. They're good with money. They know what they're spending. You're not going to fool them, you know, but you've got to show value. And when you show a fee in relationship to a budget, when you say, okay, what you want to do with this great room, there is, well, it's $100,000, and we did our budget on the fly, and that's where we came out. And we've agreed that this will be about $100,000 for all the things you want. My fee for that will be 14.5,
Mm.
just like that. Now, what happens there is you're
Pass the
playing with
salt.
this.
Isn't that what you say? Pass the salt.
Well, that's there's the pass the salt.
And
Pass the
my
salt
fee
is
for
the
that is
tone of voice that
14.5.
you
Pass the
you
salt.
use when you do that. It takes a little practice, but you can practice out loud. But the other piece is there's some sales psychology there in that when people are presented with two numbers, they compare the second number to the first.
Mm.
It's a proven research thing. So when you say that big number first and you say your fee right behind it, and they've already agreed to the big number, your fee is quite small. And really, it ends up being insurance.
Mm.
I mean, that's not really the way we want to see ourselves, but you might look at it that way. Is if they're going to spend $100,000 on this big space to make it spectacular, they want to make sure it's done right.
Right.
That's who you are. You are the insurance to make sure it's right, that what they're spending is worthwhile.
I love that. I love that because we know it to be true. We know it to be true that the project will look more beautiful. It will be, if you're doing it right, it will happen in a better timeline in coordination with the different various trades, and ultimately a much better outcome than if you were to just do the project on your own. And so to phrase that 14.5 as your insurance policy for this 100 grand that you're going to spend, because you're going to spend the 100 grand whether I'm here or not, but what is it
Hmm.
going to look like when you do it
Yeah.
without me?
Yeah. Is it going to be worth it? Is your property going to be more valuable because of it?
Mm-hmm.
If you do it yourself and if you make mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
And I think that particularly in well, in any room there are mistakes, but like in the complexities of kitchen and bath design, right? we've
For
all
instance, yeah.
yeah, we've all either lived in a space, or a relative, somebody has had a space, or we've done a renovation to a space where we're just like, we totally screwed that up. Like, that's in my kitchen, and that's not right. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And so
Oh,
when
yeah.
we frame it like, I'm your insurance policy, I'm the one that makes sure that things are done properly. It's and to you to I love what I'm really emphasizing is your connection to the $100,000 spend. It's like
Yeah.
14.5 to make that sure that $100,000 spend is well spent. That's such a little nuance, to your point in sales there. That's so valuable.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very powerful. And
Hmm.
quite frankly, when you put those two numbers together, very rarely will somebody say no. I mean, they're
Mm.
going to go, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Let's do
Right.
it.
And
Yeah.
by contrast, you could say that it's also more likely that if you say, oh, here we have a little conversation at the consult and it's going to be 100 grand, let me get back to you with what my fee is. Now they've been
Mm.
spending a day or two thinking about 100 grand, 100 grand, and you hit them with 14.5. Now it doesn't seem little anymore. It feels like, oh my God, and another 14.5, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Right?
you lost the moment. The power is in the moment,
Yeah.
always.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Always.
yeah, yeah.
Right?
So
So,
smart. I love little salesy things like this.
me too. Me too. They're like little magic pills. I'm like, oh, look at that
Yeah,
one.
because you know what it is, Terry? This is not a car salesman-y thing. The fact
No.
is you're worth the 14.5, and it's just the way it's presented. It either is something you viscerally get, or it's something that you can negate and say maybe not worth it. When you present it your way, the ideal is, I never want to sell somebody something they don't want. That's not
Right.
a win. I want a win-win-win, everybody, right? But
Right.
if you're going to do the project and you know you're worth 14.5 on it, now it's just a matter of, this is a great technique for having that value be really heard loud and clear at the moment that it's supposed to be.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. And it's very, very effective.
I love
Very
it.
effective. And by using a mathematical equation against a budget, you've got a way of pulling out a fee that makes sense. And then you go back and you figure out how you're going to spend your time budget.
So good. So good.
Right?
And so these are, first of all, that whole, like we said, calculating the fee on the fly. We walk through that in detail in
Mhm.
episode
Right.
548. So I totally love that. Now, when you do your Design Biz Summit 2021, so this is coming up November 3rd to 5th, 2021. I mean, this is some of the things that you talk about, and then you cover other things. It's Walk us through that. Is there all different
Sure.
topics that you're teaching designers? How's it go?
Well, this is totally focused on on overhauling your business in 3 days so that you
Mm.
can finally get paid what you're worth. All right? So it's learning the sales funnel to bring people in. So you have a plan, right? Like getting dressed in the morning, get the kids out. You have a way of doing that you can follow. It's also learning how you do the back end of it, how you block out your time and how you set boundaries around what you're doing and how you write that letter of agreement so that it's clear that there's 4 meetings in here and this is how we're going to do it and this is when we're done. So that, because the whole piece about billing by the hour is you bump up against your own money story every time you send a bill.
Mm.
It's like, every time. It's like, that's why nobody wants to send bills, because it doesn't feel good. Here, if you just figure out mathematically what it should be, you only have to talk about money once. You
Mm.
just get over with it. Just
Right. In the
boom,
beginning, make the
in
agreement
the
and then just
beginning.
do the work
Yeah.
following it.
And these are the things, this is the deliverables. These are the way we're going to do it. And this is how it works. And that's how you become highly profitable. So that's what I'm teaching, is that whole sequence to step into it, how you end up with a fee and what it is, and then how you use the fee and set the boundaries around it. Because most designers that I talk to um, are so scared to, well, first of all, they'll pull a fee, they'll just make a fee up. You know, I get little notes going, I'm going to do this. Do you think this is enough? And it's like, I don't know what you're doing. I can't help you there.
That's like, I'm making a cake. Do you think I need a cup of sugar? It's like, well,
Yeah.
I
Or is
don't
it 2
know.
cups?
Some cakes need two.
I don't know. I don't know what you're doing.
Right, right.
Sort of thing. So having a plan, a very structured piece to walk through. I mean, this is what I teach in my coaching programs. This is just a pull out. It's so many people struggle with this, so I really thought I should be teaching it. And
Mm.
it's how you march all the way through the job and still stay profitable. And it really has a lot to do with boundaries and writing a letter of agreement. And I don't get in the legal stuff, and you need to do that with your attorneys, and I know they're all into that. I'm going to write the part that says this is what we're doing, and
Right.
this is what you can expect, right? And this is the time frame you can expect it in, and this is what you're going to pay me at these certain times, right? So the whole thing is laid out, and from our side, we know exactly what we have to do. It's not like, gee, I wonder what I should do next. It's like, I need that done by this date. So that piece, that really big piece is really important, because in production, I mean, you'll have a meeting to do programming, see ideas, measures, that sort of thing. Then you're going to meet and present a concept and make sure that's on the right track, make any tweaks you have to, that sort of thing, and a space plan, right? That's there. Then you're going to come back with this design like at 90%.
Mm.
Beautiful. Right? And you're going to present it all at once, not pieces at a time, because that's when you get people stuck, on not don't like the handle on the chest that's perfect.
Oh, I see
Right?
what you're saying. Right. Like if you
Yeah,
show somebody one or two pieces, now they're dissecting. Where they show them the whole room, they're just like, the room looks beautiful. They don't look at the little handle.
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
They get to see the overall of the design, because that's what they're hiring for you.
Mm-hmm.
Not to be a personal shopper and say you like this one or you like that one.
Right.
You know,
And
and
ultimately, do we really care about the handles? You guys do. But the rest of us just want the room to look beautiful, and it will look
well,
beautiful, right?
it will, and it will, and the handles don't have anything to do with it, quite
Right.
frankly.
Right.
It's
That's
the
what I
right
mean. It's
size,
like, what is a
it's the
big
right
deal?
size, the right color, the right style, I mean, everything's there,
Right.
you know.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So it helps your jobs move through very quickly, because you're presenting the whole concept at once and presenting it beautifully, and then the next meeting you tell them, and they know from the beginning that's the purchasing meeting.
Mm.
Okay, it's not, are
Bring
we
your
going to
checkbook this meeting.
exactly,
Right.
exactly. You're gonna need $100,000 here. You need
Right.
to know that ahead of time. So we don't lose that sale at the end, because, well, I finished it, but they didn't order anything.
Right.
Well, there's got to be a close.
Right.
You have to present it with a close and a contract, and here's the proposal for all the things that you want. Now, the whole piece here is that if you're charging enough for your design time, if they don't buy anything, it doesn't matter.
Mm. You've already
Be-
gotten your design fee at this point by the time
yes,
you present this whole budget with the whole completed project.
absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely bill before you finish the work.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
because they're not as anxious to pay you afterwards,
Right.
as you've noticed.
Right.
So,
Right.
so if you want to take it in a couple chunks, that's fine. But by that, say that third meeting in the sequence, that's when you're paid in full in the four, and you don't want to bill what your bill at the same day you're doing the stuff, the furniture.
No, right. Now, again, we don't want these two. When we wanted to present the numbers together, now we don't want to collect the numbers together.
Exactly.
Right. We want
Exactly.
one
Yeah.
done before there's a
Done.
decision about the next purchase.
Now there's next. Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. So when you set it up this way, people follow the rules pretty smoothly. It kind of goes click, 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 click. You can move in and out of jobs quickly. They don't go on for months and months and months. I know many designers come to me with 10 or 12 jobs that have one little piece that needs to be finished because the
Mm.
client hasn't made a decision. And
How
because they didn't put
crazy.
a stop date in their contract. That's why, well, come on. I'm not going to
Okay.
design your living room forever, regardless of how long you want to play with the decorator.
Right,
I,
right.
I'm kind of convinced that's part of it. I just want
Right,
to keep
right.
it
They
going.
want it, and because there are friendships that are formed at this point and all the things and camaraderie and collaboration. And so, and again, it could be dragged out for negative reasons, but it could be for some of those positive reasons. But the point is, this is your time where you should be working on another project, making more money, and you're saying that there should be an end date. So look, all decisions made by this time, or you have to sign a new scope of contract. Not like you're on your
Well,
own,
exactly.
right?
Yeah,
It's
we're
like, I'll
done.
keep
We're
doing it.
done.
I'll play decorator with you, but it's a payment, a pay to play.
Yeah. You pay to play. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And the same with product. If you present a product proposal to buy everything and they sit there for 3 weeks and you don't have a place that says these prices are good for 72 hours,
Mm-hmm.
you're in trouble
Right.
because quite frankly, you know what's going on now. You can't, product is hard to get. It could be there today and gone tomorrow. Say, I've got this stuff. We need to do this now. Right. And when you present it that way, you get something done instead of being so open ended that they just use up your time and use you up.
And that's a great point because in all business climate, that 72-hour, it's an incentive. Somebody's got to move, right? But
Right.
particularly in this era of COVID here. Now, COVID is an era, Terry. Can you
Right.
imagine that? It was a moment and now it's an era. Okay.
Era. I know.
um,
I know.
but the thing is, and honestly, do you counsel the designers that come to the Interior Design Business Academy to even just say, look, I got to stand by this for 72 hours, and you have 72 hours to make your mind up. And because of this, even some of these items, I'm not going to be able to guarantee because that's just the environment that we're in. But
Oh,
the
absolutely.
longer you go, the more likely that they're not going to be there, right?
Right. And if they're not there when you finally want to buy them, you're going to have to pay me again to go research
Love that
and
line.
find
Oh
it.
my goodness. That's a key line right there that
Mhm.
you can take. Look, it's your world, you're grown up. You can take 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks to decide. But when you come back, if this stuff isn't available, then there's going to be billable hours for me to resurface it, re-specify it, I mean.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes.
And it's time consuming and it's hard and you don't end up as good as you were. And, there's all of those things. Yeah.
Right.
So, and that's an example of a boundary.
Right.
It's
Right, right, right.
exactly a boundary that needs to be in contracts that hold you in place. All right. So that's what I'm teaching. That's what we're going to master design fees here and overhaul your business so that you have a system that you can work off of where you know what the next step is, the client knows the next step, and you know how to put boundaries into your contract so that people stay where they belong and you can do really great work for them and really help them. I mean,
Mhm.
it improves the ability to design well as well when you're not in the middle of all this drama all the time about this isn't right and that you know what I'm talking about.
Yes. Yes.
All of that stuff. So I'm excited to do it. It's a core piece out of our out of our bigger coaching program, and it's really something that I think everybody stepping into can use. So being able to master design fees in a way that rebuilds your business, that really puts a structure into your business so that you always have next steps, that you can communicate clearly to your client what's happening, literally remodel your business so you can get paid what you're worth.
I love it.
And it's a fun 3 days. It is 3 whole days, November 3rd, 4th, and 5th, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It is 8-hour days, whole
Mm.
days. Okay.
Mhm.
When I do things, I do them big. Um, you need to really drop into this, and in order to learn it, this isn't an hour CEU thing. This is a big learning piece. It's got lots and lots of breakouts, lots of recipes. I call them recipes because we're all used to that. The systems.
Mm.
Lots of handouts with the systems. So you'll have it there. You can follow it directly. We do lots of breakout sessions so you can talk with other designers. We'll do concepts and workbooks so that we can work through ideas together. Lots of Q&A time, so I make sure you're really clear. Okay, I hate it when somebody gives you, oh, you should do this, but doesn't tell you how.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Nothing's
yeah,
worse because you don't own it then. You can't, internalize it so that when you are on your feet trying to do it, when the first couple of times you learn and do something, you don't really have it down. And if you don't understand the principles and the reasons behind it, you can't even dance on your feet in the moment, right? You don't know what you're
exactly.
going for. Right.
Exactly. You can't do the adjustments. So
Hmm.
so we work on a lot of that. We do a lot of scenarios and break into groups and say, all right, how would you handle this? Right. And then come back and share it. So it's a really interesting thing. It's a really very connected, don't often get to talk to that many designers in that kind of safe space that often and share how you build these pieces out and what you would do with the situations. And we all share that information and it's a good time. It's a really good time. I had one of my students now confided in me that she had been at Real Deal, and that was the last one we were doing on remodeling. It's 3 days, and she said I signed up for it, and I thought, oh yeah, right. You're going to keep my attention for 3 days. You did, and I did exactly what you told me to do, and it worked like a charm. And now she's part of our program.
That's
And she said,
awesome.
I want more.
Oh, that's
Great.
awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So yeah, it was kind of a great response to when you hear 3 days going, oh my gosh, what could you do for 3 days? Well, it goes really fast.
Right.
And there's a whole lot of learning, a whole lot of writing and connecting and figuring out where you want to be and how you're going to do this. And it's a ton of fun. It's a ton of fun.
I love
So
it. I love it.
yeah,
And so
and
you have early bird pricing that's going on right now. Tell
I
us about the
I
fees and how it works.
I do. So this 3-day event is on an early bird pricing. It is good for you guys until next Tuesday, the 12th, October
Okay.
12th. So there's like 4 days to jump in. This is $797. It's a really early price. It will go up. I mean, you can get a ticket anytime you want, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
It just costs a few $100s more. It's
Okay.
okay. But the early bird piece is until Tuesday. It's $797. There is a to-pay option if you want. That's there, and the early bird bonus is really cool. Before the event, we will send you an invitation to a webinar well ahead of time so you can plan for it, where we're really going to work on wealth consciousness, on your money stuff, kind of
Mm.
raising the bar on your wealth consciousness so that you can allow more money into your life, because a lot of us run with a lot of childhood messages about scarcity or what people will pay or what things should be or not getting too big for your britches or whatever. There's a whole bunch of stuff there. So we like to spend a little time ahead of time, like prep time, kind of getting you started in that so that when you come to summit, you're really ready to get into the deep work and make it happen for yourself. So
That's pretty clever. That's a smart idea because it's true. Once if you even if in one webinar you cannot overcome your money stories, at least if you've got some tactics and some ideas that you at least are engaging in challenging what your previous money story beliefs are, you're more open for the next step, like you said in the summit, to talk about how, when somebody says, I do this, you're not knee jerk reacting, just saying, that's not possible. It's like, well, maybe it's only I think it's not possible because of my money story, right?
exactly. Once you become aware of
Right.
this stuff that's been running your life, then you start seeing it show up, and then you can start doing things about it,
Right. Right. I
which
love it.
which can make a huge difference.
Yeah.
Huge, huge difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just the idea of talking about money. That money is a tricky subject. It's got a lot of emotion tied to it. And when I was a kid, I asked my dad how much the neighbor's new car cost because it was pretty and I was curious. And he said, "Honey, it's not polite to talk about money." Which is probably the
Mm.
right thing to say to a 9-year-old. However, I don't think I talked about money till I was 45, and I don't think that's what he meant. But, and we all pick up these weird things, that can really get in your way because, our clientele, we're talking about luxury. We're
Right.
talking about really high end stuff. And that's the part of the business we all want to be in. but we have to be able to match our wealth consciousness to our clients.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's so
So,
true. It's so true. We've had several shows on, I'll put them in the show notes, but, where you really do think about events like that particular one where, yes, you're not going to tell a 9-year-old because the next day you say to the lady of the house, hi, I like your $20,000 car. And she looks at you like, kid, what are you doing? Right. But
yeah,
to internalize that across all other aspects of your life and take it into your adult life is a real thing. And it's a thing that happens to all of us in all different ways. Right.
yeah, and it could really get in your way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, having a little wealth consciousness awareness can really move your business forward. So,
Awesome. And
I
that's
like
for
to
the early bird people, the people
that's
who
the
sign
early
up
bird.
an
That is
early
the
bird.
early bird bonus. Yep, that's a
Nice.
small group. It's live with me on Zoom, where we get to talk and converse and work on these things. So it's a lot. It's very, very cool. So it's Summit 2021 is all about overhauling your design business in 3 days so you can finally get paid what you're worth. And I'd love to have you there. It's going to be a ton of fun. I'm really excited what we're presenting, and it'll be a great group of designers. It's not a large group. I tend to keep this to about 100 so that I can connect with you, so I can talk to you
Mm.
and have some one-on-one. There's a lot of Q&A time in there, and we want to keep it that way because that's how it's most effective and really, really works. So I'd love to see you there. You just go to interiordesignbusinessacademy.com. When you get there, the pop-up will take you to the information page. You can read all about it, got lots and lots of details, and then grab your ticket quickly so you can be one, and I will see you there.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Terri. I wish you all the best. And for anybody that's going to join with you, I'm sure lots of takeaways, lots of ideas, and lots of things to move your business forward. Thank you, Terri.
Thank you so much, Luann. Take care.
Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at luannigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.